Hello, I'm retired Lieutenant General Peter Kind, a longtime parishioner of Pohick Church, a docent, and president of the historic Pohick Church Foundation. The foundation is pleased to sponsor this virtual tour and is grateful for Mount Vernon's technical assistance. After the restoration of Pohick Church to its colonial origins in the early 1900s, Pohick continued to grow and evolve. Throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, the spirit of our colonial ancestors has continued to influence the way we shape and form our lively community of faith. With our great military history and our proximity to several military bases and the federal government, Pohick welcomes individuals and families from all walks of life and some who have lived all over the world. And we have native Virginians from Mason Neck, and we all get along just well. In addition to the likes of George Washington, George Mason, and George Fairfax, we have been honored to welcome other key leaders and visitors over the years. During the presidency of Teddy Roosevelt, Pohick Church was visited by the First Lady, Mrs. Edith Roosevelt. She traveled down the Potomac aboard the presidential yacht, Sylph, to Gunston Cove, where they anchored. They came ashore by steam launch and then walked to Pohick Church. Colonel Harrison Dodge, superintendent at Mount Vernon and a member of the vestry, arranged the tour and escorted Mrs. Roosevelt. In appreciation for the visit, at the following Thanksgiving, the President and Mrs. Roosevelt provided to the rector and his family a turkey, mince pies, and a bottle of good port wine. President Harding was present at the unveiling, May 20th of 1921, in Pohick Church, of a tablet to the memory of Fairfax County men from the Pohick section who made the supreme sacrifice during the First World War. The upper gallery, now a choir loft, was added in 1916. It was in the original drawings, called a hanging pew, but not built during original construction. The bell tower was added in 1917. The brick wall around the church grounds was built by Mr. Baker, a parishioner, in 1919 to 1920. There was no organ in the church until after the Civil War. A new organ was added in 1968 and 1969 by Fritz Nowak. It has 948 pipes, 16 stops, 18 ranks, and employs the tracker design for tonal fidelity. The organ case was designed by Charles Fisk, and the carvings were done by Roger Martin. Some changes and additions were made by David M. Story in 2005. Its classic 18th century design expanded to allow the playing of music from all periods of music history and is perfectly voiced for the fine acoustics of the church. The current parish house was built in 1958. The rectory was built in 1963. The window glass was replaced in 1992 using glass made in Germany by period methods and are likely as close to original as possible in appearance. They do, however, have ultraviolet filtering, which was not in the original glass. The brass lighting fixtures are from an ancient church in France and are dedicated to the memory of those who served in France in the two world wars. The needlepoint kneelers at the altar and the chair seats were executed by ladies of the church in recent years. Pohick added the current parish house in 1958. It contains staff offices, classrooms, a choir room, and a common room for fellowship. Across the courtyard from the parish house is the vestry house, finally built in 1932 based on plans drawn up in 1772. The colonial vestry minutes mention the vestry house plans, but the expenses of the Revolutionary War delayed its construction until 1932. Pohick built the vestry house out of old brick chosen to match that of the church. Much of the hardware, fireplace mantel, and woodwork used to finish the interior of the vestry house came from a colonial area house nearby owned by the Brunow family, who were parishioners. Pohick built the vestry house in celebration of the bicentennial of Truro Parish and George Washington's 200th birthday. Across the cemetery and through the woods, Pohick built the current rectory in 1963 and recently updated it. Today, it is occupied by the rector's family. In recent years, the ladies of Pohick added needlepoint kneelers at the altar and needlepoint chair seats. One of our parishioners, Jackie Wells, compiled a book of these exquisite needlepoint cushions. Over the last century, Pohick has established new traditions and outreach events, to which we invite the surrounding community. In the fall, we cook, can, and sell our famous Pohick apple butter using colonial-style copper kettles. We host a country fair with colonial and gospel musicians, pony rides, food, and several activities. Each year, we sponsor several family and community events for all ages and have an active youth group and Christian formation program. At Pohick, we hope that you'll come for the history and stay for this lively community of faith.